What up, essays? Welcome to South Central Gaming, Episode 1. So just a little backstory. For 6 years of my life, I used to get up really early in the morning just to catch a school bus. And this school bus used to take us from South Central LA all the way over to Harbor City. So because we had to get up so early in the morning, we had to miss out on a lot of things, like watching Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo get chased by monsters, Rocky and Bullwinkle, or Teddy frickin' Ruxpin. And what was Teddy? Boy? Girl? I don't know, it doesn't even matter. And the Gummy Bears. And I don't know if half of these shows are Saturday morning cartoons or not, but either way, I didn't get to watch them. I get to catch up on them on Disney+. LA traffic is terrible, and my hat's off to you, bus driver. It would take forever and a day just to go 18 miles out. So even though there was a school within walking distance from my house, there would just be too many students for one school to handle. So on one of these days, me and my classmates waited for the bus, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited, but the pinche bus never came. So one of my buddies invited me back over to his pad. No, that wasn't his pad right there, not the alley. It's the house on the right, somewhere there. This alley actually looks a lot cleaner than it used to from what I remember, because this is the way I remember it looking for years. So anyway, this is where I played my very first Nintendo game, because remember, I didn't own a Nintendo system. So introducing Castlevania. So you play as a guy named Simon, and the object of the game is to kill everything and loot everything. Our main weapon is a whip, kind of like that Indiana Jones guy, and you get a bunch of other weapons that you can use using hearts. It's kind of weird that the hearts are for weapons and they don't bring life to you. So as a kid, I used to watch this TV show, usually at night on the weekends, and had this really gorgeous gal that I had a really big crush on back in the day. And so the monsters that used to appear on her show now appear on this game, which is pretty cool. Now, I don't know why I like to watch this show a lot, why I still continue to watch it now. Could have been maybe the big giant hair. Yeah, it was the big hair. You know, one thing that sucks is that in all the years that I ever went to Comic-Con, yeah, and I know what's Savato doing at Comic-Con, but that's another story. But anyway, over at Comic-Con, I never got to meet Elvira. And I know what some of my friends are thinking. I thought you did meet Elvira. You met her like 10 times. Well, no. I met Cassandra Peterson. Cassandra Peterson? Not the same as Elvira. That's two different people there. And you really can't convince me otherwise, okay, Ese? Now don't get me wrong. Meeting Cassandra was an honor and a privilege. It would just be a bit better meeting Elvira. But hey, back to the game really quick. Check out this trick I found out. Bam! I found that on accident. So anyway, in this game, you get to fight Dracula, you get to fight the mummy, La Momia, and you also get to fight Medusa, and you also get to take on Frankenstein's monster. Remember, Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein is also another person. And I know it's kind of strange to find out that some vatos know how to read, but hey, that's what happens when you get a library card. One other thing that's really cool is that one of the last level bosses just before you fight Dracula is Santa Muerte. And that freaking level boss is hard. So one thing to note is that this is also the first time that I went to another person's home without my mom knowing. That's a big thing in Mexican culture. So something that my friend showed me when he was showing me around the house was a room that was full of santitos. And then he showed me a room that was full of princess house. You know, all those cups and stuff that nobody uses that supposedly go up in value. And I also noticed that his bed also had one of those animal blankets that will keep you really warm in the winter. You know, those blankets that every Mexican has? They usually have a wolf, a tiger, a saint, sometimes Jesus. But lately, I noticed that they've had Lakers or Raiders. I don't know. I don't watch basketball. So after we played video games for a bit, and he showed me around the house, showed me everything, this nice little old lady came out. And after my friend had to explain that the pinche bus just decided not to show up, and after we waited, and everybody had already gone to school, except for us, so we decided to walk away. And after my friend explained everything that I've explained to you up until this point, there is something else that we missed out on, and that was breakfast. Now I'm about to take some people back, because let me explain how government provided breakfast worked for us. So every year we have to fill out an application that contains our parents' income, and so depending on approval, we each get a calendar full of tickets. So every day we have to rip out the ticket for that day, one for breakfast and one for lunch. Now I can't speak for anybody in this day and age, but in my day, back in the 80s and 90s, the lunch and the breakfast really wasn't that bad. And I found out much later in life that sadly, these 2 meals that we get at schools, that was it. That was the meal for the whole day. And I look back, and a part of me says I wish I could do more, but there's only so much you can do as a kid. And well, that was life. So anyway, going back to this nice old lady, she comes up and she asks me if I want something to eat, if I wanted to join her and her son for breakfast. And of course the fat kid in me isn't gonna say no, and she made us both some of the best breakfast burritos ever. But you know, you can't say that out loud back then, because Mexican moms and Mexican grandmas, they don't like to compete. So their food is always gonna be the best, or you can go somewhere else. Hey, you Latinos, you know what I'm talking about. So in the following years that I knew this friend, this was the first guy I've ever known that lost both parents really young. And he was actually being raised by his grandmother. I got to know kids from all different walks of life. A lot of them still have both parents. Some kids had only one parent. And I knew quite a handful that had no parents. And I knew one kid that was adopted, and 3 kids that were in the middle of a custody battle. And you know, you would think that I'm over here talking about all the kids in South Central, but I'm talking about the entire school. So it didn't matter if you were black, white, Hispanic, this affected all of us. This thing called life. And I know it may seem so strange to go off topic like this, especially when I'm talking about gaming, but that's really my intention. I want people to know what it was like playing video games in the 80s and growing up in South Central. And this is why I think gaming is really important. Or at least it was really important for me growing up. Because it was a way for us to get away from it all, tell a story, or to experience a story. And this particular game, Castlevania, has about 30 different games in its series. Don't believe me? Look it up on Wikipedia. Now the cool thing about Castlevania is that you can still play it to this very day, even on the newest systems, like PlayStation 4. You can buy it as a whole set with like part 2 and 3 and all the other ones. And you can even find it on the Nintendo Switch. This is still a very popular game, which I think is really cool. And not just that, but they keep remaking this game. So PlayStation 1 has a version of this game, and so does the Super Nintendo. Now this game also came out in the arcade as part of the Versus series, along with Super Mario, I think, and Goonies. But the timer on it was terrible. You run out of time really quick. Oh, and they had this other stupid ass game called Haunted Castle, which I guess I'll cover it later. I don't know, but it's really dumb. One thing I like about this game is that they make it hard, but not hard enough for you to quit every time. So me and my cousin, we rented this game years later, and we tried to complete it, and it took us all day. And it was even harder for me since I still didn't own a Nintendo back then. Now, one thing I don't want to do right now is spoil it for those that want to play this game again, but once you spend all day trying to beat Dracula, you're gonna find out that you still can't kill him. And what I really mean by that is that he can transform. Why? Because Dracula's forever, man. So anyway, in closing, we all come from different walks of life. We all have different stuff that we deal with. We all have our different problems. And I just want to say, please understand each other. Understand what we've all gone through. And just get to know each other. We all have our own inner demons that we fight. And sometimes we can't fight them alone. We all need each other. And we all can use each other's help right now, especially with the way things are going. Just be there for each other. Hear each other out. So in closing, all I want to say, just like Bill and Ted says, be excellent to each other. Thank you guys for watching. Please check out the music. Check out Vomitron. They make outstanding stuff. And they have a YouTube channel, so check them out.